So you found the pattern, so all we're going to do is work with that pattern today. We looked at that pattern, we're going to work with that pattern today. Remember, these are referred to special right triangles. Actually, we have two of them. One we're going to talk about today, one we'll talk about on Monday. This first special right triangle has this angle relationship. This angle relationship is, I've got a right angle, and the two other angles are 45 degrees. And the relationship is up here. If I know one leg, we call this, of this right triangle, and then I know the other leg, and I know that I can find the hypotenuse by multiplying by the square root of 2. This will always work. So if I know one leg is x and the other leg is x in general, then the missing part is going to be x times the square root of 2. Now the problem, these work really nicely if I'm given a leg. But the problem that we might run into is, what if I'm given the hypotenuse? How am I going to work through that? So I can also write this a different way. So draw yourself another beautiful 45-45 right triangle. And let's use another variable. What variable should we use for the hypotenuse? What is it? Y, okay. What if I'm given y? What if y is the solid number that I know? How can I get back to the leg? Just think about solving equations. If you multiply to get one way, how do you undo it to get the other way? Divide. So I would take the hypotenuse and divide it by the square root of 2. That's a y over. So this is y over the square root of 2. Is this a good way to leave this? No. How else can we write this? How do we rationalize the denominator? You remember doing that? From a couple days ago, how do I get that? Yep. I don't square it. Well, kind of I square it, but more specific. I do sort of square it, but what do I square? The denominator, yep, so I square the denominator. So this becomes y times the square root of 2 over 2. And we're going to be working with patterns now. All right? So let's take a look at this next picture. I know a leg. What's the other leg? 9. What's the hypotenuse? 9. Done. Does that seem too easy? It should. It should feel like, what? Are you serious? This is what we're doing? Yes, we are. If I know a leg, what's the other leg? The same. What's the hypotenuse? Multiply by the square root of 2. All right? Here's where my problem comes into play. What if I know the hypotenuse? I divide it by the square root of 2. Right. So I can take this 24 times the square root of 2, 24 times the square root of 2, and divide the square root of 2 out. What do you suppose is going to happen to those square roots of 2? They'll cancel each other out. What's my leg measure? 24. What's my other leg measure? 24. Beautiful. It's lovely when they give you the square root of 2 right in the problem for the hypotenuse, but they're not always going to do that. And so as you see in problem number 4, things get a little sticky here. I'm given that. But what is x? How am I going to get back down to the real problem? I can do 16 divided by the square root of 2, and then I have to rationalize the denominator. So I will multiply the top by the square root of 2 and the bottom by the square root of 2, and I'll end up with 16 times the square root of 2 over 2. Is everybody okay with my math? Does that seem reasonable? Can I simplify that? Yeah, I can. 16 can be divided by 2, can't it? What do I end up with? 8 times the square root of 2 when I simplify. Pull a 2 out of both of those. I can't pull a 2 out of the radical because that's trapped inside that radical. But the whole numbers, the 2 and the 16, those can be manipulated and moved around. Let's try another one like that. Number 5. What's x? How do I start? X equals what? You don't have to give me the answer, just tell me how to get started. Yeah. 44 divided by the square root of 2. Rationalize the denominator. And simplify. Let's do 6 the same way. What time do we have till today? 10:28? Okay. Let's do 6 the same way. So what is x? Okay, so for the next set of problems, 7 and 8, let's go 7 through 11. I am going to, in 7, I want you to find x and y. They weren't printed on there, sorry. 8, same thing. Find x and y. 9, I'll put an x and a y. 10, an x and a y. And 11 has an a, b, and c. 11's going to be a tricky one. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to let you work through again. See if you can check your answers with somebody else. But I want you to find all the missing variables.
Or what class is this?
Okay. Algebra.
Oh.
So for 7, you should have had x equals 4, y equals 4 times the square root of 2. For 8, you should have x equals 6 times the square root of 2, y equals 6 times the square root of 2. How are we doing so far? This is on your pink paper. Okay? That's for 7 and 8. For 9, x equals 11, y equals 11. Feeling it? We're doing good? Pretty good? Okay? For 10, x is 9 times the square root of 2, y is 9 times the square root of 2. Some of you even found a pattern with that, right? Okay, so 11 was probably the one that was going to cause the most problems because we have a big triangle here that would allow me to find b and c, because b, remember if this is 45 and this is 45, this one must be 90 up here. B and C, or B and the leg have to match, and C would be the hypotenuse in that triangle. Okay? You might have done that a different way, but that's a way to look at it. However, if I'm looking at the little triangle here, I already know B. If I take that out, I already know B as the hypotenuse. That was 20. and this is 45, and this is 90, and this is 45, then I can find A. So A would be 20 divided by the square root of 2, which simplifies down to 10 times the square root of 2, okay? So that should have been your final on those. Please work on your assignment. I'm going to give you about, again, maybe 15 or 20 minutes to work on your homework assignment. You should be able to get it done. But then I have one more thing for us to do within the last, like, 10-ish minutes of class.